Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to break down a lecture that, well, it pretty much tries to dismantle the entire foundation of modern science. Our goal here is to unpack its core arguments step by step, exactly how the speaker lays them out.
So, the lecture we're looking at today kicks off with a pretty big ask. Forget everything you learned in science class. Yeah, seriously. It wants us to open our minds to a totally different story. A story about the universe, about our place in it, and about what consciousness even is. Okay, so to really get what this argument is all about, we've got to know what it's arguing against. So first, let's lay out the official story, the standard scientific version of reality that this whole lecture is trying to take apart.
And that story starts, at the biggest scale imaginable, cosmology. We've all heard it, right? Almost 14 billion years ago, there was this tiny, super dense point of energy that just, boom, exploded in the Big Bang. And from that single massive event, the entire universe we know just unfolded.
Then we zoom in, right down to our little planet, and we get the classic Darwinian story of evolution. It's all about random genetic changes and survival of the fittest. It's a totally blind, goalless process that somehow, against unbelievable odds, ended up with, well, us. And finally, we turn the lens inward, into our own heads. The standard story from neuroscience, it's basically that your mind is just a fancy biological computer. Your brain takes in all this data from your senses, filters it, turns it into memories, sticks some emotional labels on them, and poof, your whole identity, your sense of you, just kind of emerges from that.
Okay, so here's the absolute key takeaway from this first part. The lecture claims that this entire scientific narrative, from the Big Bang all the way down to your brain, is propped up by three core ideas. 1. Everything is random, a product of chance. 2. Everything is material. If you can't touch it or measure it, it's not real. And 3. Everything complex emerges from the bottom up. Remember those three, because these are the pillars the rest of this talk is going to try and kick right out from under us.
All right, so now we get to the fun part. This is where the lecture stops just explaining the standard model and starts, well, attacking it. The main point here is that this scientific story, which seems so solid, is actually full of holes. Let's start digging into the first big one. So the first big problem is aimed squarely at the Big Bang. Think about it. If you have one single neat explosion, you'd expect everything to spread out smoothly and predictably, right? But that's just not what we see. When astronomers look out there, they see a clumpy, weird, erratic expansion. You've got galaxies moving at all different speeds. It just doesn't fit the simple explosion picture.
So how does science explain this away? Well, according to the lecture, they basically invented something to plug the hole. They call it dark energy. It's this invisible, totally undetectable force that supposedly makes up most of the universe and conveniently makes all the math work out. The speaker's point is that this isn't some great discovery. It's just a fudge factor, some spackle to cover up the cracks in a failing theory. Next up, the argument takes on human evolution, which the lecture says is full of some serious plot holes. Like, what about the famous missing link, that huge unexplained jump from ape to human? And then there's this weird 150,000-year gap in our history where apparently we just sat around doing nothing. And maybe the weirdest question of all, why are we the only human species left? Evolution is supposed to create tons of diversity, but for us, there's just one.
And that neuroscience model? It's got a classic chicken and egg problem of its own. Okay, so if our worldview is built from our memories and experiences, where does a baby's worldview come from? I mean, think about it. They have unique personalities right from day one, way before they've had enough experiences to build anything.
Then the lecture goes after the scientific method itself. You know, the way we're all taught it in school. You do research, you form a hypothesis, you experiment, and then you discover something. But the speaker argues that in the real world, it's the complete opposite. Think about the huge breakthroughs. Einstein's theory of relativity, the discovery of DNA structure. Those didn't come from some step-by-step process. They came as a flash of inspiration, a dream. The idea came first, and all the work came after to prove it was right.
So, okay, after spending all this time knocking down the old model, the lecture starts to build up a new one. And it starts with a huge what if. What if reality isn't made of stuff at all? What if, at the most fundamental level, the universe is just vibration and information?
Now, to back this up, the lecture looks at evidence that mainstream science usually, sweeps under the rug. We're talking about the thousands of near-death experiences that report shockingly similar things, the universal patterns people see on psychedelic trips, the common themes you find in ancient myths all over the world, and those states of expanded awareness people can reach through deep meditation.
And this is where it gets really wild.
The lecturer brings in quantum physics, specifically the Schrödinger's cat experiment. You know the one. A cat's in a box with poison that might or might not go off. According to quantum mechanics, until you open that box and look, the cat isn't alive or dead. It's both at the same time, just a wave of possibility. It's the act of you, the conscious observer, looking that forces reality to pick a side. So here's the radical takeaway. Consciousness doesn't just see reality, it creates it.
So this all leads to a pretty breathtaking new model of our place in the universe. Picture this. The universe is just this giant sea of information. Our brains are like radios tuning into that signal. We process it through our own unique lives to create memories. But, and this is the truly mind-blowing part, those memories get imprinted back onto the universe. It's a cosmic feedback loop. We're not just watching the show, we're actually helping write the script.
There's this incredible ancient Hindu metaphor that captures this perfectly. It's called Indra's net. Imagine this infinite net, and at every single point where the threads cross, there's a shimmering pearl. And if you look closely at any one pearl, you see the reflection of every other pearl in the entire net. The lecturer says this is exactly what consciousness is like. You are one of those pearls, and when you change, that change is instantly reflected in every other pearl across the whole fabric of reality.
Just when you think it can't get any bigger, the argument takes another huge leap. It reframes all of human history, not as a fight over land or resources, but as a metaphysical war for the nature of reality itself.
The way the lecture lays it out, humanity is basically at a fork in the road, with two very different futures ahead of us. One path is described as heaven, a reality based on our spiritual side, on consciousness and free will. The other path? That's hell, a purely mechanical reality run by technology, fear, and control. And right now, we're stuck in the middle of this cosmic tug-of-war.
And according to the speaker, this isn't just happening by accident. The claim is that there are powerful forces actively trying to shove us down that mechanical path. Their end goal, a total inversion of reality, to get us to believe that the material world is the only thing that's real, and that our consciousness, our spirit, is all just a figment of our imagination.
So how would they do that? Well, the lecture lays out an alleged four-step plan. First, you gain power by secretly taking control of all the faceless bureaucracies. Second, you weaponize fear, making the fear of death the single most powerful force in people's lives. Third, you use that official materialist story of science to convince everyone that there is no spiritual realm. And the final step, the end game, you use technology, transhumanism, to defeat death, effectively trapping human consciousness in a material prison forever.
And that brings this whole wild, mind-bending argument right back home. It takes the focus off the universe, off of history, and puts it squarely on you and on me. Because here's the final and most provocative idea we're left with. If it's true, if consciousness really does create reality, then what you choose to believe is the most powerful creative force in the entire universe. This so-called war for reality, it's not happening out there, it's happening inside your head. So the ultimate question is, which reality are you choosing to create right now?